Who won the neck decorating contest?
The giraffe.
No one. It was a tie. Pat's all over the place today. We're creating echoes. We're doing it's a mess, folks. Welcome back to Brand Coverage. I'm Brandon Carney alongside Pat Gustafson in our second ever fully in-person bean-bagged edition of Brand Coverage. Pat's got the dogs out. Pat's also gonna have to leave us like 10 minutes early.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to just get up and
he's got work. He's gonna leave me to my lonesome to deal with you guys.
Not all of us get to make silly little TikToks for a living. Some of us actually have to go to work.
That sounds
I'm not gonna announce when I'm leaving. I'm just gonna get up in the middle of you're gonna be mid-sentence and I'm just gonna get up.
That's
leave.
fine.
Okay.
That's I would have it no other way. Folks, week 2 is in the books. Pat, how did your teams fare? How are we feeling on this fine Tuesday morning?
I was much happier. I think I was 3-6 last week. I think I was 6-3 this week. Won in the league that matters. Did you win in the league that matters?
Don't play the violin. No, I did not. I am sitting at a cool 0-2 in the league that matters. I can say I at least didn't get swept across my other leagues, mostly because I rostered Jonathan Taylor in basically every other league I'm in, and him going for about 30, combined with some other supporting performances, ended up being pretty good in some of these other leagues. I was the highest scorer in my fiance's family's league, so I'm starting to assert my dominance amongst her family, which is good. They need to know who because Pat, here's the thing. I do this as a career. Everybody in the family knows I do this. So, the expectations are high. Yeah. It's almost a problem if I'm not good. So I need to start showing something there. And unfortunately, it came at the expense of Lexi. I played her this week. I want her to win just as much as I want me to win.
In spite of me doing this, my expectations couldn't be lower. So it's actually a nice surprise to people who I play with when I, in fact, win. I almost got fucking hacked in our second week of the guillotine, but thankfully some guy dropped a cool 50 in full PPR.
Well, it did make me laugh because we were sitting here, last week, and you were like, "Oh yeah, our guillotine draft. Bran let me get Derrick Henry," and I was like, "Yeah, how'd that go, huh? Bijan getting me a cool 19, Derrick Henry getting you 2."
I took him over McCaffrey too. That was almost bad.
It was trouble. Let's get into it, folks. We've got plenty of injuries to talk about. We're going to rehash some panic or patience with the guys we talked about last week, as well as some new guys being introduced into the potential panic fold. And then, of course, Mount Studmore, Mount Bustmore, and our $1 million moves. But, Pat, because we have such significant injuries this week, let's kick it off with the injury report.
I was saying how I can just hear that video. We can't hear it when it plays, but I heard it.
Our audio setup is something. I've got my headset over there that's connected to my actual PC that runs this operation, and it's on a very low volume, but it does hear what we're doing. So Pat just hears the ouch. Pat, all the quarterbacks are dead. So look, this started concerning enough, right? The first one that really happened was Joe Burrow. I mean, apparently it happened with Jaden Daniels on Thursday, and we just didn't know the severity. But the real one that we first heard about was Joe Burrow, turf toe, requires surgery, expected to miss 3 months. A lot to unpack here. First off, the Bengals are 2-0, which just complicates this whole situation even more. Because normally, I guess, maybe not normally, but last year, and generally speaking, they're always 0-2. They're off to slow starts. Now, they are, having this hot start to the season, at least record-wise, barely beat the Browns, whatever. They now have to go into the next few weeks with Jake Browning as their quarterback, unless they go and get somebody else. I can't imagine they would. I don't know why you would keep Jake Browning around for this long if you weren't planning to start him in this exact situation. He's kind of considered one of the more premium backups in the league. But what does this do to the Bengals offense and to the Bengals just as a whole? I mean, we can look at this from a fantasy and a real-life perspective for a little bit, but from a fantasy perspective, I mean, if you're a Burrow owner, I'm sorry. This is just ass.
All I need to do, apparently, is proclaim a guy's going to be MVP and he dies.
I did the same thing. Look, I withheld from giving my award prediction in our podcast episode of that because I had a YouTube video coming out about it. But in that YouTube video, I did proclaim Joe Burrow as my MVP pick as well. Everything lined up, right? In a healthy season for Joe Burrow, everything lined up. My concern and the comparison that I am seeing brought up quite a bit is that this is turning into Andrew Luck. And that's not to say that Burrow is going to, end his career the way
No, I
Andrew
don't
Luck
think-
did.
yeah,
That's too much of a leap to make. But it is turning into it in the sense that you have this uber talented quarterback who you are asking to carry the world kind of on his shoulders and refusing to put an O-line around him to protect him. Now, a little bit of a double-edged sword here because Burrow, we have heard, has been very, very, very vocal about, keeping that offensive core together. Jamar, T. Higgins. At a certain point, you don't have the money to pay offensive linemen. So you can kind of look at, I'm not blaming anybody for Burrow's injury, but just saying the offensive line woes that the Bengals have had, there can maybe be a little bit of shared blame there. I guess the Bengals should be drafting guys a little better as well on the offensive line, but this just sucks. And you look at the Bengals offense as a whole, I mean, diving into it from a fantasy perspective, I think, look, Jamar Chase is going to be all right. I think he put up pretty good numbers the last time Browning got extended action. Browning's actually 4-3 as a starter with the Bengals.
Yeah, I'm looking at some stuff. I mean, there are some less than stellar games, but you look at the targets, 16, 8, 11, 11. He's still going to get his fair share. The question is just, can Jake Browning make those valuable enough targets? But I think so. I mean, he was out there slinging it. I mean, to the Jaguars 3 times, but he was out there slinging it. There are far worse backup quarterbacks than Jake Browning, to the point where, they may go bring somebody else in, as backup, but I don't think they should or will kind of bring someone to, because like you said, if they were worried about Joe Burrow going down, with their expectations on offense, they wouldn't, be one turf toe away from handing Jake Browning the keys, especially now that they're 2-0.
Can we talk about how silly of a name turf toe is? By the way?
It's just so crazy that a toe can genuinely put a guy out for 3 months, but when you think about it, it makes sense. You got to plant, you got to jump, you got everything.
I'm more saying the silliness of the name of turf toe for what a relatively gruesome injury it is. Your ligaments are just getting ripped up off your toe. That hurts. And turf toe just makes it sound like, I stubbed my toe on the fucking.
Makes you sound like athlete's foot or
tennis
elbow.
Yeah, exactly. One thing I should know about Jake Browning and just the Bengals upcoming and their offense is, look, I do think Jake Browning is one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. I do think he'll be able to hold it down reasonably well for the Bengals. But, Pat, these matchups coming up are a big problem. Next week, they've got Brian Flores' Minnesota Vikings defense that they're going to have to contend with.
And Carson Wentz's Minnesota Vikings.
And Carson Wentz. After that, they've got the Denver Broncos, who I guess maybe the jury's a little out on their overall defense now that the Daniel Jones Colts have kind of destroyed them.
I'd still say overall an above average defense.
Still not a defense you are excited to see on your schedule. Then the Detroit Lions, which is just a formidable all-around opponent. And then they've got a road game against the Green Bay Packers.
Jesus.
And then they've got a home game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So defensive-wise, you are not looking at a ideal set of matchups for your backup quarterback.
Especially when you just scrape by the Browns and the Jaguars to get to 2-0.
With Joe Burrow.
The Jaguars aren't that bad, but still a team that the Bengals should be beating more handily than they did, granted, with Jake Browning for a good portion of it.
Yeah, so just to look at this Bengals, look at these skill players and what we're going to do with them. Jamar Chase, you're obviously still starting. T. Higgins, I think you can sit if you have good enough depth. I don't think. I mean, T. Higgins, you're barely drafting as an. I guess not barely. In our league, he was barely drafted as an auto starter type of player. But in T. Higgins' past seasons, he's been a 5th round-ish type of guy. Yeah. So I think it's more than reasonable to be benching him for a different flex option if you have the luxury of doing so, especially with these matchups coming up. And then Chase Brown, Chase Brown is an interesting one because not a single other Bengal has received a carry out of that backfield yet.
Yeah.
Yet Chase Brown has been unnervingly inefficient in the Joe Burrow version of this offense, and now he's about to get Jake Browning. So I don't think you can. You're certainly not sitting Chase Brown unless you are really loaded at running back, but I do think you have to lower expectations to more of a high-end flex play at this point.
Yeah, at least for now. But again, like you said, the fact that another Bengals running back has not taken a carry here, and the fact that they only have Samaje Perine and Taj Brooks, and it's not like they can go out there and bring somebody in who's going to get a significant workload here. So you want to still say that, like, oh, this offense should still be solid. I mean, like you said, you're still starting Chase Brown.
Yeah, I don't think you can sit
I don't.
him.
The sky is no longer the limit. No,
Right.
I think he'll still be a reliable starter. I still think he'll have his big games, but I do think we need to temper expectations, as sad as that makes me.
I would agree. J.J. McCarthy has an ankle injury. He is likely to be out this week. It looks like he might be missing about 2 to 4 weeks, which leaves us with Carson Wentz as the starter for the Minnesota Vikings, and leaves us with Carson Wentz versus Jake Browning in Week 3, which is utterly hilarious for Week 3. This is the kind of injury-riddled matchup
game,
you would expect on Week 11 Thursday Night Football, where you're like, all right, I can maybe catch up on some other stuff tonight and not worry about this game. From a fantasy perspective, though, Pat, I really don't think this changes a lot for the Vikings offense. Like, they were not, outside of a blitz of a fourth quarter in Week 1 against the Chicago Bears, they were not getting a lot out of J.J. McCarthy anyway. So whatever you've been getting, if you are invested in any Minnesota Vikings right now, I don't think you should really be expecting to get less with Carson Wentz coming in. I don't think Carson Wentz is worse than the current version we have of J.J. McCarthy. So if you are a Justin Jefferson owner, I would almost feel better about this than whatever J.J.'s been giving you. If you are a Jordan Mason owner, which I am,
unrelated,
unrelated, but also related, just in terms of the offensive, confidence as a whole. You're starting Jordan Mason now.
Absolutely.
Aaron Jones banged up. We'll talk about him in a second. And then receiver-wise, I mean, I guess you're really not starting any pass catcher on the Vikings right now, other than Jefferson.
Well,
T.J.
Hockenson, I think that
upgrade here maybe.
If you can go and get somebody like, if you were able to get Jawan Johnson or Harold Fannin, we'll talk about some other tight ends. If you have another option there, I think it's okay to sit T.J. Hockenson, but you just may be in a spot at this point of the year where you don't have another option ready to do that. So, but, we saw Wentz in Philadelphia again, that was like 100 years ago at this point. It's hard to compare that. But when Wentz was a starting quarterback, he had strong connections with Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert there. So it's like maybe Hockenson can benefit from this. But yeah, just again, overall, Kevin O'Connell offense here. So like, as long as we think Carson Wentz can keep that floor up, we'll be okay. But I think it's just a case where the Vikings, besides Jefferson and whoever's their running back, it's not looking like a huge fantasy gold mine right now anyway.
No, let's see. Carson Wentz's upcoming schedule. So obviously he's got the Bengals this week, then the Steelers, then at the Browns. So that's really the set of games that we think there's a pretty good chance he'll be starting. Then the Vikings are on a bye Week 6. Then they come back and play the Eagles and the Chargers.
Good Lord.
I'll say this, and I mean this would require some pretty big sackage. I don't think he's a bad streamer this week, Carson Wentz. I don't think Carson Wentz is a guy that I've been kind of waiting to see get another shot in the NFL. And I'm under no delusion that we're going to go back to 2017, pre-injury, pre-Nick Foles, Carson Wentz here. But, I mean, is this not the exact mold of a player that when you talk about guys that Kevin O'Connell can refurbish and get the most out of, that you would expect him to put up good numbers?
He did it with far less quarterbacks last year, Josh Dobbs,
and against
Nick
the Bengals defense too. Like Carson Wentz can move a little bit. He's got a great supporting cast here in Minnesota. The concern is going to be the offensive line, which has continued to be a bit of an issue without Christian Darrisaw. But overall, I don't think, especially if you're in a super flex league, I don't think Carson Wentz is necessarily a bad play.
Well, especially now with 3 guys who you were definitively starting. As well with Jaden Daniels and Justin Fields here, with them in doubt, there is a potential demand here. These are 3 guys who were being started in pretty much every league.
Yeah.
So, we'll talk about some interesting waiver pickups later, but yeah, I mean, I'd almost like to see it first. If JJ's going to miss multiple weeks, I'd like to see what he can do first here and then say, okay, I'd consider him. But if you're really that desperate,
I just think if you're looking for a true, kind of, I won't say upside. I mean, I don't think Carson's about to drop 30 fantasy points on anybody. But if you are in need of a quarterback, so are a lot of other people. And if Daniel Jones isn't available on your waiver wire, or if somebody else gets him before you, your options might be limited.
I'd much rather. I think the upside of Jake Browning is much better, though. Honestly,
really against the Vikings, I'm not sure. That's a tough matchup.
I just think again a Zach Taylor offensive Bengals offense, sure, upside, but Wentz may be the safer play.
Yeah, I mean, Browning's definitely proven more in recent years than Carson Wentz has. But, just looking at our waiver wire, Pat, if you were in need of a quarterback this week, Daniel Jones is there. Let's pretend he's not, because he's going to end up being owned in a lot of leagues. You're going to have a lot of competition for him on waiver wires.
The GOAT.
Jared Goff is here, but he's on the road against the Ravens.
And he's not available in many leagues.
And he's not available in a lot of leagues. And we know, I know Goff is coming off of an amazing game this past week, but we know what he is. I mean, he dropped 10 points last week.
We know what he does on the road.
This is the up and down that Goff likes to do. And then beyond that, it's like, do you trust Russell Wilson against the Chiefs? Do you trust Trevor Lawrence at home against the Texans? Like, you get to a point where, I don't know, I guess maybe it's just me. I'm not looking at Carson Wentz with the Vikings as like a lower tier than any of those guys. It's scary to start a guy who hasn't started a game in, I don't know how long. Maybe did he spot start for the Chiefs last year at the end of the? He might have. A guy who hasn't really started on a regular basis in a long time. But I just think it's interesting. Jaden Daniels, knee injury. This one we don't quite know the severity of yet. All we know right now is his status for this week. I believe against the Raiders is in doubt. Obviously, just have to keep an eye on this one if you're a Daniels owner. I am not thrilled about it as a Deebo Samuel owner. I just want this offense to be as put together as possible and not have to deal with any drop off at the quarterback position. If he were to miss time, it would be Marcus Mariota. Talk about streaming candidates. He runs the ball a hell of a lot.
That's the thing, is if you're looking for, again, if you think he's not going to be Jaden Daniels, of course, but if you think his style of play can kind of slot into this Cliff Kingsbury offense where he can at least do what he does best, then I'd argue there's more upside there than Browning or Wentz potentially. But he also stinks. Is the thing we're forgetting too, is that he hasn't been a very productive quarterback since he's left Tennessee.
Here's what I will say about Marcus Mariota.
He's had his moments for sure.
Very small sample size, but started 2 games last year in place of Jaden Daniels. One when Jaden was injured against the Panthers, and one week 18 when I just assumed they had nothing to play for. Yeah. Against the Panthers, 19.6 fantasy points, 205 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, along with 11 carries for 34 yards.
Panthers defense as well. But
Panthers defense as well,
but
yes.
Still,
have to keep that in mind. But Raiders defense this week, granted, they played actually not terrible.
That's their stronger side of the football right now by far.
And then at the Dallas Cowboys week 18, he went for 26, went for 161 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns again, and then rushing 5 carries, 56 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. Mariota probably is the safest replacement bet among these guys. As much as I like talking up Wentz because I think it's sneaky, Mariota is like a legitimately not terrible spot starter if you're looking for just.
You guys want to hear some Pat ASMR? Because I gotta crack the fuck out of my knuckles. Let's do it nice and close to the.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna
Someone
record
just
that.
fucking nutted at home. Sorry.
And then last little injury here. Justin Fields concussion, was having a horrific game.
Oh my God, he looked like
the
Justin
Bills.
Fields, man.
Yeah, for anybody that didn't follow or watch that game, Justin Fields' low point total is not because he left the game with a concussion. He missed, I believe, 2 drives in total. The last 2 drives of the game, the Bills destroyed them.
Bro had a QBR of 1.1.
And this is one that is not surprising to me. Like, this is Justin Fields. We talked about it last week. How sustainable were the Steelers and Jets offenses? We basically agreed not at all. Not that they can't be bad, or not that they can't be good, but that they weren't going to be scoring 30 points a week. And the Jets kind of crashed and burned a little bit more than the Steelers did. Justin Fields now becomes, I think he already was this. I think people may have jumped the gun thinking he was any more than this. He's a matchup-based streaming type of quarterback. I don't think he's a lock-it-in starter every week, but now he may not even play this week at all, and you're looking at Tyrod Taylor as a replacement.
But again, Fields still managed to scamper for 50 yards, though, so again, you've got to look at that, the rushing upside over, especially now with guys like Burrow and potentially Jaden Daniels out for a bit. That may be your best option still, but we've seen that the floor is still just absolute hell. That offense as a whole was stifled. Again, the only one that I'm looking at of this game with any kind of positive reflection is still Garrett Wilson, just from the sense that he nearly tripled the next highest targets. So again, he only went 4 for 50, not a very good game. But the fact of the matter is that even if there are games that are tough, he could still volume his way into a passable day. 9 full fan at PPR points isn't awful.
It's not going to kill you. It's not going to kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is what I've expected. A lot of things have gone against my expectation this year in fantasy so far through 2 weeks. But one thing that hasn't is what Garrett Wilson has done. Week 1, he had a great game. He had 7 catches, 95 yards and a touchdown. Week 2, Still got that volume, didn't do anything with it because I don't think Justin Fields is very good and I don't think the Jets are very good. And this is basically exactly in line with what I thought would happen for Garrett Wilson. It's going to keep happening. He's the kind of guy that you are not going to probably take out of your lineup really at any point. Maybe with Tyrod Taylor, but maybe not. I don't know how that one's going to play out. But kind of just par for the course for Garrett Wilson, a guy who you know is going to get the volume. It might be poopy volume.
And again, Tyrod Taylor isn't awful. I mean, veteran, been around for a long time.
Yep.
We haven't seen him get extended run in years, but he always seems to start a game here and there every year. So again, I think for the Jets, you could do worse as an offense. You're not starting Tyrod Taylor, even though, again, he does have some rushing upside, even at age 100. See, I'm afraid to look up how old this guy is, because I bet it's not okay, he's 36. Okay,
he's 36.
He is as old as I thought he was.
Okay, he's more unk than we are. That's helpful.
So Unk still got it. So, but Justin Fields, who did we say they play this week?
They have the Buccaneers this week.
They have the Bucs, so I mean, maybe if Fields even plays, you may look for some alternatives if possible there.
Yeah, held C.J. Stroud mostly in check outside of a nice opening drive, touchdown to Nico Collins last night. But the Bucs defense has, I guess actually I shouldn't say that because they got shredded by Michael Penix week 1. So two sides of the coin there. But Tyrod Taylor's also not going to be slinging the pill down.
Well,
the field
you just look
Penix.
at Fields and Taylor both had 11 attempts. Fields had 27 yards, Taylor had 56 and a touchdown, and still had managed 21 yards on the ground. So even that, it's like, okay, again, I'm not starting Tyrod Taylor unless someone puts a fucking syringe to my lung like the Chargers doctor did. Unless somebody does that, I'm not starting Tyrod Taylor.
That's fair. Pat, let's do this real quick. Let's rank 1 to 5, including Mac Jones, who is stepping in for Brock Purdy in the interim. Who are you most comfortable starting? I think
out of all the
replacements. So we've got Jake Browning, Carson Wentz, Marcus Mariota, Tyrod Taylor, and Mac Jones. And we can go off of injury here, matchup here. Mac Jones has the Cardinals this week.
Yes.
So decent matchup. And Cardinals defense hasn't been
I
terrible.
would put, even like not taking matchup into account, I would put Mac Jones at 1. Even though obviously he doesn't have the rushing upside that a guy like Mariota has. It's a Shanahan offense, and even as injury decimated as they are, it's really only Kittle. In the sense, we saw Juwan Jennings look healthy and look good. Ricky Pearsall's been out there. McCaffrey's looked great. Like Jake Tonjes had a pretty nice day there too. So it's like the offense, the skill position players are not quite as decimated as it may appear. So matchup aside, I think he's number 1, and I think Mariota is the clear number 2 there. Those are the two.
That's fair. We don't have to rank all of them because realistically, you shouldn't be considering all of them.
Those are really the only two that would really. I would, after that, I'd probably go Browning, Wentz.
Yeah, after Taylor. That, you could start looking at the guys who are already on the wire.
I was about to say,
we don't have to just be considering.
I'd rather have Daniel Jones than those guys.
Yeah.
I might rather take a flyer on like a Russell Wilson than those guys.
Broncos country.
Oh. Giants country.
Die. Giants country, fee, fi, fo, fum.
Okay.
Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride.
Anyway, I think I would go Mariota. Screw it. I would say Mariota over Jones.
I don't necessarily. I don't think that's a bad decision.
But those are definitely the top 2. Aaron Jones, hamstring injury, is expected to be out for week 3, possibly a couple weeks beyond. Hasn't been placed on IR or anything as of now, so nothing to make us believe he'll be out more than that. But big boon for Jordan Mason.
Jordan Mason's not going to give it back.
As somebody who may or may not have drafted Travion Henderson in the 3rd round, play that fucking.
You always say like, I'm done drafting young guys early. They screw me every year. Gets screwed by his own guy.
Listen,
his own guy.
It's not that the young guys necessarily screw me every year. It's them young boys. It's I've sworn off taking tight ends early, which I just am going to keep doing that. But I never swore off taking rookie running backs early, especially here's the thing with Travion, real quick before we get into Aaron Jones. The reason he's not working out is maybe the most unexpected reason possible, and it's because he's been ass in pass protection. That's supposed to be what he was good at.
That was his whole thing.
He's getting all these holding penalties, and I'm like that was what I fell back on, where I was like, look, third round is always filled with landmines in fantasy football drafts. Like, you are just trying to avoid the guy that is going to tank your season and just be really bad. And so for me, I was like, Travion, look, even if he doesn't take the backfield, he'll still be a 1B. He'll get pass game work, which he did in week 1. He got a lot of targets. And he's good at pass protection. So all these things that are so important for keeping a running back on the field, he was good at until he wasn't. And so that it is what it is. But again, as a Travion drafter, I'm very excited that I have Jordan Mason. We don't root for injuries around here, obviously, but God, I kind of needed something to break my roster's way.
I have a lot of Jordan Mason as well in just about every other league.
This is going to be good for Jordan Mason. I mean, I think Jordan Mason has overall looked better than Jones. I mean, Jones has looked explosive. He had a nice, touchdown catch week 1. When he's had space, he's looked good. But I just feel like for this offense right now, Jordan Mason might be a bit of a better fit, and he is able to just kind of grind out those yards. And yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he's going to give the job back in the sense that, like, it's already a split. It'll be a split when Jones gets back, but we might be looking at more 60-40 versus 50-50.
I was about to say, I think Mason will at least be, above Jones, and I think Mason will still be a guy that you can start when Jones comes back too. Because
he's borderline startable as is. I mean, he wasn't very good against the Falcons.
I started him in a few leagues this week, but again, Kevin O'Connell offense, and we're talking about a guy who's 4 years younger than Aaron Jones, who hasn't had a history of soft tissue injuries the way Jones has had. And granted, Jones did stay healthy last year, so you need to give him credit for that. But unfortunately, it's already come to bite him as early as week 2. So yeah, Jordan Mason, especially with running backs coming at a premium and not a ton of injuries at the position and a ton of influx at the position. Jordan Mason, if you got him, great. Yeah. That could be like the league winner kind of guy, maybe, if he does what he did in San Francisco last year.
I think you'd have to be hard-pressed not to be starting Jordan Mason in week 3 and beyond for as long as Aaron Jones is out. Even though this isn't necessarily the Sam Darnold or Kirk Cousins version of the Vikings, it's still going to be a fairly productive offense that will allow for Jordan Mason to get some points. This one hurts, Pat. Two-time.
I can't play the violin because
we can't because it's sarcastic.
It's sarcastic, but I'm very sad.
This is genuinely upsetting. Two-time friend of the show, genuinely good dude, Austin Eckler, torn Achilles, done for the season. I mean, I think everybody with eyes that has watched sports knew the minute it happened. I mean, we've seen every single torn Achilles the last few years in every sport has looked the exact same. You take that little negative step, try to push off, fall over, hold the calf, it's over. So look, it sucks for Austin. We wish the best for him. He's given his time to us on this show, has helped probably double our viewership at the point that he first showed up on this show. It's still the most viewed, listened to episode of the podcast.
And obviously that, the fantasy league contest that he promoted goes for such a great cause. He's just a good dude. And it's unfortunate. And it's also unfortunate that he is age 100 in running back years, aka 30, with now coming off of a major injury after coming off a very major lingering injury. It's just, does he bounce back from this? I don't know. I mean,
it's going to be tough.
He'll come back, obviously. It's not like he's going to retire. He'll come back and play somewhere. But, yeah, it's just unfortunate, especially with them trading Brian Robinson. The opportunity was going to be there. But now things get interesting because they did, in fact, trade Brian Robinson, and I bet you they wish they hadn't.
They might, yeah.
They're in a position now where we're going to talk about a few of our preseason darlings today. Bill Krosky-Merritt is
Bill.
Again, we do not root for injuries here, but if you're Bill Krosky-Merritt and if you're a Bill Krosky-Merritt owner, things cannot really have gone better for you.
Yeah.
The only thing here is I don't think, first of all, that backfield has not produced a whole lot. Didn't Bill have a touchdown week 1 that kind of floated his production a bit more?
Yep.
But against the Packers, they did nothing.
They barely used him.
They all had 17 yards. So like Bill, Eckler, and Daniels, 17 yards each.
Yeah.
The Packers are just really fucking good, it seems. But that hasn't been a very productive backfield. And there's no way he gets the full share at this point. They talked about Chris Rodriguez, which was probably part of the reason they were comfortable trading Brian Robinson. And there's also the Jeremy McNichols of it all, who we've seen, even on this Commanders team, be at least a productive real-life football player in his role. So now I still think you're starting Bill. No matter, certainly. I think Bill is, not a must-start per se, but he's a starting running back on hopefully still a good offense without Jaden Daniels. But I think this might get a little yucky. I mean, it's yucky anyway, just from a production standpoint. Yeah. But I think the fact of the matter is that none of these three guys are super established players. You're not going to be excited. I mean, I think Rodriguez needs to be picked up. McNichols maybe in a deeper PPR league.
Well, it's
see, that's the thing. It's like, who the fuck knows?
It's worth mentioning that, Chris Rodriguez has been inactive these first 2 weeks in favor of Jeremy McNichols.
But that's because of McNichols' pass catching and special teams play.
Sure,
Rodriguez isn't necessarily.
But McNichols has been the guy, and we'll see if this continues, that's been out there, when they get close to the goal line. So he's taken some of these high-value touches. So, yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be grosser than the Bill Mafia. The Bill Mafia. Just made that up. The Bill Mafia.
Yo, wants it. Hang on.
Hey, well, let me cook.
Let him cook.
Can we even trademark that? It's one letter off of Bill's. I don't care. I'm going to try.
Yes.
The Bill Mafia wants it to be, but it's still going to be good for good old Bill Krosky merit.
Of course.
Austin Eckler being out of the picture due to unfortunate circumstances. Like, Austin Eckler was getting so many carries in that game to the point where, pre-injury, I was like, why are you giving? I love the guy. He's my boy.
He still got hurt, and he doubled Bill's carries.
Yeah, and they were
leaving the game.
They were just running him up the gut. It wasn't working. Yeah. Eckler has his role, and his role is pass catching back, get him out in space. He is not the guy you should be running up the middle of your formation at this point. And Jacory Bill Krosky Merritt is maybe more suited for that, and so I'm excited to see him with a larger
Chris
workload.
Rodriguez, that may be a spot for him though too. Is that may be one of his stronger points? So
it could be.
I don't know. It's not. I'm not claiming. I'm not wasting a claim on any of these guys. Would I pick them up? Should they pass waivers? Sure.
And we're talking not including Bill, obviously.
Oh, no.
Bill is on
most likely
83% of rosters.
Yeah.
But
so
if
Bill's available, yes, I would use a number one waiver claim on him if he's somehow available in your league.
Available in 17% of ESPN leagues, so not an insignificant number. All right. Panic or patience, Pat, and I do have kind of a sound effect for this, so let me play it. It's like an alarm. Yeah, it's like the iPhone alarm. That's what I just played. Okay. Panic or patience?
Like the bum bum ba da da
bum. No,
okay.
Yeah, that one. All right. Panic or patience? We're gonna rate on the panic meter 1 to 10. First off, though, we're gonna kind of frame this around one particular group of young men. Very, very young men. Them young boys.
Them young boys.
Pat, it's 2 weeks in. Do the rookie running backs stink? All of them. No. Not counting Bill. Bill's the best. Do the rookie running backs stink? Because we are looking at now 2 weeks. 2 weeks in, Ashton Jeanty, Travion Henderson, Omarion Hampton, R.J. Harvey, all of whom are either not playing, essentially, or are incredibly ineffective.
Or worse. Caleb Johnson, who's like a step away from being a healthy scratch.
Caleb Johnson's a step away from working at IHOP. It's not good for Caleb Johnson.
So, yeah, it was tough watch, especially at the end of that game last night, the Chargers game, when Hampton fumbles.
Yeah.
And they just give the ball to Najee Harris to run the clock out. Because in that point, that's when you want Najee in the game or something like that. And that's a little concerning. It's like, the ineffectiveness, a fumble, especially in an old school offense with Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, it's like, if Najee didn't look very good last night, but because the Raiders defense is locked out, baby.
The crazy thing, Pat, is so this was, and people who watched us and listened to us throughout the offseason know this, and even if you absorbed any fantasy content throughout the offseason, this was supposed to be a good rookie running back class. I mean,
it was great, especially after last year.
Yeah,
was it last year where there was nobody?
Right, it was last year. Jonathan Brooks was the first one off the board, 40-something overall. Yeah. And so it ended up producing like Bucky Irving, but whatever. It wasn't expected to be a good class. This one, there's a lot of guys drafted pretty high. And the crazy part is, Pat, these guys are actively playing themselves off the field. And it's not because of just the inefficiency. It's because of mistakes. Early in the game last night, Raiders versus Chargers, you saw Ashton Jeanty go to the wrong side of Geno Smith to take a handoff, effectively blowing up that play. Omarion Hampton fumbling the ball in a critical situation. Now, granted, that was a weird little handoff situation. It wasn't pretty. Maybe some, the play itself, there shouldn't have been a defensive player in the backfield that quickly. But even before that, was not hitting the holes, was not really breaking tackles, was not looking very good. Travion Henderson, 3 separate holding calls against him in the Patriots game for a guy that is, again, supposed to be really good in pass protection. R.J. Harvey just continues to split time with J.K. Dobbins.
Split time?
I honestly didn't even see the split this past week.
Dobbins had a good game. I think it was kind of significort.
I wouldn't be surprised.
The carry dispute.
I mean, I know week 1 Harvey's
Dobbins
production
had 14 carries. Harvey had 5 for 8.
Wow. Okay.
And Dobbins went 14 for 76 and a touchdown, which kept me from getting guillotined. Thank you, JK.
Yeah. So it's looking rough for these guys. Where are we at with these guys, Pat? Like, I mean, you could either broad stroke it, or
we gonna stroke it already.
or look at these guys one by one. I mean, do you feel any stronger about one guy as opposed to others, or where are we at?
I think you're starting Ashton Genty still, just from the perspective that
if he's either your first or early second round pick. I mean,
I think you have to start him just from the sense that their most established back, Raheem Mostert, has been a healthy scratch the first 2 weeks.
Which I'd like to bring up. The fact that Zamir White and Dylan Laube got meaningful touches in that game last night.
Well, that's the thing. Well, that's what I mean. It's an issue, but it's like, are they going to actually make it an issue in the sense that are they going to command more work?
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Laube did have that. Well, 2 catches for
that was
a 13-yard.
That was kind of the most alarming thing to me of everything last night was Dylan Laube getting the 2-minute drill over Ashton Genty. Like Ashton Genty was a guy
that's kind of his thing. He's kind of like a fullback hybrid where
it shouldn't be. You spent the 6th overall pick on Ashton Genty.
No, I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
I touted Genty as this guy who could get 400 touches this year. I mean, why are you drafting a guy 6th overall if you're going to play Dylan Laube over him?
He's still dominating the carries at the very least, and he's getting 4 targets. I just think that this Raiders offense is just very pedestrian at the moment. Like outside of that first drive last week where they looked, I'm like, holy shit, this team's going to be amazing.
I mean, Geno looked like a drunk Muppet last night.
Geno looked bad last night. Geno looked like prime Jets Geno last night. And I just think their offense just hasn't come together yet, and not necessarily that it's going to, but I think it will improve. And again, it comes down to the fact that the volume will be there. There is nobody that commands taking that volume. If he does make more mistakes, we may see a little bit, but Zamir White's awful. We know this. And Dylan Laube is a fullback, an FCS fullback.
Yes.
And Raheem Mostert has been inactive. So I'm worried in the sense that he just hasn't looked good, but I'm not worried in the sense of the workload. I think he gets it done. I don't think you can sit him yet. I mean, he's your first round pick. You really can't.
Yeah.
Now you look at guys like, I'm not starting RJ Harvey at all.
No,
I don't own any RJ Harvey. You're not starting RJ Harvey. I think you could sit Travion Henderson unless you really are desperate. I would rather start Omarion. I think you're still starting Omarion Hampton too. But again,
everything is circumstantial. Everything depends on your options. I think Hampton is still in the starting
if I had to choose
discussion.
Like if I have both of those guys on my teams and I have to start one, I'm starting Omarion Hampton.
I think Hampton's still startable in theory. I don't think Travion Henderson is startable at this point.
I don't either.
Last week, after week 1, the workload was good enough. Like you had, again, 6 targets in the receiving game. That was all good. Now, I mean, he played behind Antonio Gibson. And this is literally...
Did have a nice touchdown.
This is literally, not in that kick return. This is below what any reasonable person thought the range of outcomes would be for Travion Henderson. Like, yes, there's going to be people out there victory lapping, you fell for the preseason hype, all that, and I'll allow you to do so. But there was no world where Travion Henderson was supposed to be behind Antonio Gibson.
But the thing is, I still firmly believe it's going to happen. But the thing is it going to be early? Is he going to command that early enough to make it worth draft capital? Where I know someone who took him in the 3rd round personally, but most people were probably taking him in the 4th or 5th round. Is that going to command that draft capital? And I'm starting to think no. That won't happen. He may be more of a guy that kind of helps you win a league later in the year, but he could also be a guy that means you're not in contention late in the year.
I'll also say this, here's the thing. You have to bench Travion Henderson in your fantasy league, assuming you have any sort of reasonable option, just to make him prove it again. He needs to earn his way back into a starting fantasy lineup. I'll say this. I don't think it's impossible that he does that as soon as this week, because when you look at what happened, he played himself off the field because of the penalties. If Mike Vrabel gives the kid a clean slate and, just starts the game trying to use him the same way he did the first 2 weeks, which was still Ramondre Stevenson on the first, 2 series, either way, both weeks, even the week where Hendo was good week 1, if he gives him a clean slate and Henderson just doesn't do that shit again, we'll be okay. Like, we'll be in more of a split where he's at least in the flex sort of conversation. That wheel route that Ramondre ran, I don't know if it was a wheel route, whatever, up the sideline, that was, Vrabel said in an interview, like, that was a play they ran with Travion Henderson in practice. And that was not a,
Clearly a good play.
Clearly. But they, at that time in the game decided Henderson wasn't deserving of being on the field, and I don't disagree. So I think you have to sit him for now. I think you monitor the situation going forward. It wouldn't surprise me if he bounces back sooner than later. In general, I'm not giving up on this rookie running back class in any sense of the word. Like, we're 2 weeks in. Is it what you wanted to see? No, especially in an era of the NFL where rookies are contributing more and more earlier and earlier on. It is unfortunate to see these growing pains, which is funny because it's like it's a benefit of the doubt you want to logically give them, right? Like, they're rookies, but we've just seen it so many times the last few years, rookies coming on so hot that you're surprised when the more logical thing happens, which is the rookies take a little time to get acclimated.
But there are some more promising things here. I said last week that Quinshon Judkins could take the lead sooner than later.
He already did. Done.
Done. That's to the point where, because that was so bad. Like, there was no sign of Jerome Ford, no sign of Dylan Sampson, really. It's his. Again, it's the Browns. You got to temper your expectations, but I think at some point a clear-cut starting running back in this climate, especially with all these guys we just talked about being worrisome that were used with starter picks, got to start.
I think you feel better about starting Judkins than any of these rookies except Genty. I mean,
yeah. Oh,
I
absolutely.
Think you feel better about starting him than Hampton.
Then I'm not starting our boy Bashal Tootin yet.
Dude. I'm going to do it.
Do it. I actually just ripped the ass at the same time, so that worked. He's just holding it. He's holding the button.
Okay, you're good.
He was holding the button. He did look good. We're not starting him yet, but
you're not. No, yeah, you're probably not.
It's promising. And in a similar, I was shocked to see Cam Scatterbo take the reins as quickly as he did too. And again, after looking, what was that guy who trolled? Like, oh, he looked explosive. He looked pretty good.
He did now. This week he
looked good this week in comparison to that. Again, to double Tyrone Tracy's touches and to be more productive with it. And to get 3 targets in the passing game.
And he's the goal line guy.
That's what I mean. Like, at what point does Tyrone Tracy kind of just become redundant in the sense that they don't really need him anywhere outside of, spelling him and being he'll be more than a breather back, but I feel better about starting Cam Scatterbo than I do RJ Harvey, I do, dare I say, Travion Henderson. I think I'd rather start Cam Scatterbo this week. That's nuts, man.
Yeah.
That's nuts. The great white hope. Sorry.
I think I'm with you there. Okay, let's just run through all those rookies.
I am kidding.
Let's run through the top 4 rookies. Panic meter. Again, Ashton Genty last week, we were both at 3. Where are we at with Genty right now?
I'll jump up to a 5. Because, again, the volume is still there, which, at the end of the day, until he really starts losing snaps and touches to a significant degree, I'm not going to fully panic. The reason I move up is just because of the fact that he has not been nearly as good as he should. Granted, he wasn't, in terms of efficiency last night, he was better. He was better. But just the fact that he hasn't completely taken off where you've taken him in the first round. I have no Ashton Genty. It actually,
I don't either. Not by design, but I'm happy now.
It just never happened. But that's the thing is, like, I am, but if you took him with your first round pick, and you've got to stick with that.
Yeah, I think I'll tail you with that 5, mostly because of, again, the workload. Like, this is a guy that, because of where they invested in him, he should be out there all the time. He should be getting schemed for more, especially in the pass game. I know he's not one of those elite receiving backs to where you're going to be doing like a bunch of Devon Achane type stuff with him, but he should be getting a little bit more. So I'll tell you at the 5. Travion Henderson last week, I was at a 1. Pat was at a 2. I'll go 6.
I was gonna say 6 as well. Again, I think it'll happen, but not. Yeah, I would say not enough.
It's not a panic on like long-term overall viability. It's a panic on returning on that draft capital, which is going to be tough. And the fact
that if you draft a guy that early, unless you know they're injured and you know you're not going to be playing them, you got to be playing those guys.
And
there's reason to
the
panic
other factor
on
here
that
that I didn't even like verbalize this, but Ramondre Stevenson looked good. He looked good. It wasn't just he was playing over Henderson. He looked good, which is even just further complicates it. Omarion Hampton.
I'll say 4. Again, I think it's that he's still a rookie. It takes time to get acclimated. If he can hang on to the football, Najee Harris will exist, but again, in this Chargers offense, first of all, Justin Herbert has looked fucking phenomenal.
He has.
Again, this offense has looked good, and they're still going to want to run the ball a good deal, and he's still the more talented player. I think it happens. Again, I just think there's some panic right now because you're not thrilled about starting someone you probably took around the early third round here.
I'll say 5. I just don't think he's looked good, and that's something that you need to hope just gets better. Like
the boys are scatting in the chat.
He needs to get better. Wait, what? He needs to just get better at playing running back. It can't be scat.
I am in space on the moon.
Oh God. RJ Harvey, 7, 6.
I don't even know because I'm not even
6, 7.
I don't know what that means, but I don't. But we just made a lot of kids happy. Oh, then again, don't say that now.
Oh no! Don't take that out of context.
It's funny because I'm not even panicking just because I don't care right now.
I know.
He's not in Caleb Johnson territory.
He had the lowest expectations of all these guys.
And the fact that J.K. Dobbins has had 2 reasonably productive weeks. Again, is it something that I do think happens eventually? Yes. But as of right now, he's not even someone I'd consider.
No.
So, again, another guy that I have no stock in. Apparently, I have stock in a lot of the same guys I've learned this week. But RJ Harvey's another guy that I really don't have any of, and that's just kind of cool. He's not,
RJ Harvey is one that, out of all these guys, I would most expect to not be a thing until the second half of the year. I see an avenue for Travion Henderson and Omarion Hampton to be effective before November hits. RJ Harvey, I'm not sure, has that outlook.
Fucking FPS guy says you can't be saying 6'7" and also have facial hair, LOL. So I broke the fourth wall and joined the chat and said, what the hell does that mean?
Oh, we're off the rails. All right, so those are the rookie running backs. Reviewing the rest of the last week's guys that we had on the panic meter. We had the Dolphins just in broadly. I had 10, you had 8 on the panic meter of the Dolphins. I still don't think that's invalid.
There will be... I think the 10 is invalid, but I think the worry is valid because they will have their weeks where they look downright awful. But it was great to see Tyreek Hill catch a 40-yard pass. It was great to see them just kind of be productive and nearly win a football game to be competitive enough. And again, Devon Achane, the efficiency still isn't fantastic, but he's finding the end zone.
Yeah.
He's dominating the touches. Ollie Gordon does not exist. Isn't Malik Washington a wide receiver?
He is.
And he's getting he's the backup running back right now. So I'm not worried at all about Achane. The thing is, there's still going to be those bad weeks, but you're starting Achane no matter what. I think right now you're starting Tyreek Hill and just kind of rolling with the punches.
Thursday night against the Bills will be interesting for Tyreek Hill.
God, I have the Bills defense.
You are going to be sitting there looking at whatever point totals these fellas give you for 3 days after that game.
I will say though, but again, I'm starting Devon Achane no matter what.
Of course.
No matter what, and I'm expecting him to at least put up a decent day, a day where it's just okay, I'm not. What does Matthew Berry say? You need 11 in PPR. You need 11 points from all your guys to win.
Yeah.
I'm expecting Achane to make me at a point where it's okay, I can still win.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say is the Patriots defense, as much as I am a believer, supporter, gooner of them, they played this team horribly. They played some of the softest zone coverage I've ever seen in my life. And that's not to say other teams won't play the Dolphins like that in the future. Maybe they were over playing, the too high, not go over the top of our heads sort of situation, even though they did let Tyreek do that at one point. Because I felt like Devon Achane just had a fucking runway to work with every time he got the ball. I'm like, guys, that's their best player.
And he stepped out of bounds, too, on that one. Oh,
he did.
Not that I won anyway. I can't complain, but still, it just would look nicer.
Kenneth Walker, I had it a 4. You had it a 7.
Huge L.
I'm looking pretty good there, saying 4. He still didn't get a lot of work. I mean, he only had, I think, 13 carries, but he turned it into over 100 yards.
As opposed to Zach Charbonnet, who turned 15 carries into 10 yards. 10.
Hot ass for Zach Charbonnet.
Again, good to see the Seahawks look the way they did.
Yes.
Because they were kind of another team where it was is this even going to be an offense? But again, you kind of I sat a bunch of Kenneth Walker this week. I sat him everywhere. Take the L. I put him already, for next week, I already put him back in everywhere I can.
Yeah.
And this may be a roller coaster, but again, it's just good to see that is not going to be a theme.
Yes.
Especially if Charbonnet keeps producing that way.
Yes. Isaiah Pacheco, I had it a 6. You had it a 4. It seems like it is continuing to trend pretty bad for Pacheco. Granted, they played the Eagles. Look, they played the Chargers and the Eagles the first 2 weeks.
Good teams. Yeah.
So these are good teams. I think you're probably sitting Pacheco, though, for right now. I mean, the first 2 weeks, 5 carries for 25 yards, 10 carries for 22 yards, and ceding, again, work to Kareem Hunt.
Who's been slightly more efficient, but still ass.
Yeah, I think I'm keeping the number at 6, basically. Like, I'm not going to go any higher because why would I? Like, it's the same thing he did in week 1 against a really great defense. And so let me see what he can do against a normal defense.
And I shared to our Bran Pyre chat that as soon as I don't have Patrick Mahomes, he turns into prime Michael Vick with his legs out there. He has looked phenomenal.
Yep.
So, even he's starting to, the production still isn't crazy high, but he's starting to look more like Patrick Mahomes, and it's actually starting to translate into some better fantasy production. So
yes. All right, we've got a bunch of new candidates on the panic button here because it's guys that either we didn't talk about week 1 because we just weren't that worried about them, or just seeing the 2 weeks together makes it a little bit more questionable. First one, Pat, one that speaks to me personally, because if I had gotten reasonable production out of either of my first 2 picks, I probably win this week. Brian Thomas Jr. 8.5 points week 1, 6.9 nice points week 2.
I just can't worry about a guy getting that many targets.
I'd like to say that, here's the thing. You're not worrying about it to the degree that you're considering benching Brian Thomas Jr.
Agreed.
Because you can't. You're right, 12 targets. You can't do it. The problem with Brian Thomas Jr., and I spent a lot of time yesterday morning looking into what the fuck is going wrong with him. I spent a lot of time slandering Trevor Lawrence's name, when in reality, it was not Trevor Lawrence's fault week 2. It might have been a little bit week 1, a lot of off-target stuff to BTJ, but week 2, Brian Thomas Jr. basically just alligator-armed every important target that he got. And there's speculation as to why. He got lit up in the preseason on a crosser against the Steelers. Trevor Lawrence, hospital ball. Trevor Lawrence just isn't that very good of a quarterback right now. So that is what it is. And so people think, now Thomas is hesitant going over the middle and not really trying for these balls. Then we find out after the fact that Liam Cohen said he came into the game with a wrist injury. Now, is he covering for a bad performance for BTJ? Is it legitimate?
I'm sure it's legit, but he may not have mentioned that had BTJ had a good game.
Right.
I think that's the kind of way it is, where it's probably a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm concerned for him in the sense that if this is a mental issue, Pat, how do you that's hard to overcome what your instincts are.
I've never had to deal with mental issues, so thankfully
we are very mentally healthy.
I can't relate to what he's going through at the moment. Shit, my mom's gonna yell at me. I haven't called a new one yet. But yeah, again, this Jags offense is producing some fantasy production. Like we saw fucking De'Ami Brown, who's also saved me in the guillotine. But there are a lot of mouths to feed. There's Travis Hunter. There's De'Ami Brown who's getting involved. There's Brenton Strange who's still getting a handful of targets a game.
And this is the issue: is Trevor Lawrence should not have a better connection with those guys than he does with BTJ. BTJ is getting the most targets on the team still, which is good. But there comes a tipping point, Pat, where if he's not reeling in more of these targets, they're going to dwindle, especially when seemingly everything he throws to Brown. Now, I'm a little thankful De'Ami Brown dropped that touchdown in the end zone, because otherwise
he had another touchdown.
One went right off his hands.
I wouldn't have had to worry about fucking guillotine if he caught
right off his hands. So that at least dampens the De'Ami Brown, love fest a little bit, but. Yeah, it's concerning when it seems to be a guy's instinct to shy away from contact, because then you add just an element of thinking into playing the receiver position that Brian Thomas is playing. It should be largely instinctual to do the right things. Now, if he's looking at it like, oh, shit, I am pulling up accidentally, even if it's subconscious, it's something he's got to now actively think about heading into games and heading into practices, and it just muddies. It's gross. You're still starting BTJ. You don't have better options than a guy getting 12 targets a game with his talent profile. But I am nervous. I'm nervous. I'm going to put this at a 5 because, again, workload's there. Playing time's going to be there. But it's one of those things you just have to hope he gets over it. And that's a scary thing to hope for. It's nothing clear, black and white to be like,
early
okay,
second round pick. Early second round pick. And then an early first round pick is Justin Jefferson, who, again, those two numbers, 12 and 9.
Okay. And again, these are half PPR totals, by the way.
He's not losing you weeks, but he's not the wide receiver 3 that he was being drafted as in most places, or 2 even in a lot of places. But we've seen him kind of be QB proof. Maybe Wentz can come in and kind of not make some of these mistakes that JJ's making and still keep that connection with JJ. JJ being Justin Jefferson. God, too many J's going on. I'm not worried. Like 2. I guess 2 just because it's like, again, this is not a guy that I own at all. So
that's fair. I'll go 3, just because I do think this challenges. You just mentioned it, the narrative of him being QB proof. It's like everybody's QB proof until they're not, and so that was that was a concern I had about him coming into the year, where I wasn't really targeting Justin Jefferson a lot, because like at the end of the day, every NFL season is a small sample size. You only play 17 regular season games, and to broadly say Justin Jefferson is QB proof because he's performed with, Kirk Cousins, Sam Darnold, Nick Mullins, whatever, all these guys.
Josh Dobbs.
I just don't think that's like, every quarterback's different. It doesn't mean that you can't get a guy in there that is a dud. And I don't think JJ McCarthy's a dud of a player, but like, to just say, I'm never going to call a receiver fully QB proof. I just think that's a little silly.
I feel like Kevin O'Connell could probably play quarterback in that offense at this point in his life.
I mean, he was a quarterback. I'll put him at a 3 just because when JJ gets back in there, you do want to see just a little bit more than what we're getting. AJ Brown, 1.3 week 1, 5.2
just
week 2.
A weird Eagles offense right now. They're 2-0 against. I mean, the Cowboys stink, but
dare I
still
say,
an 0-2 Chiefs team that will still be very good.
I say the Eagles are looking like the Chiefs, where there is no desire to really score a lot of points, and you're just winning however you have to win?
I started Devontae Smith in our league last week because his numbers without Dallas Goedert have been off the charts in the last couple of years, and I think he had like 5 for 40, and that led the team.
Yeah.
So I think, could this just be a case where outside of Saquon Barkley, nobody is going to have a super high volume role in this offense? So that's why I think I said Jefferson I'm not worried about. I'll put AJ Brown at like a 5.
I was going to put him at a 5 as well. I think AJ Brown is just one that, look, he's on pace right now for the season for like 300 yards. And so obviously that is not going to persist.
Nah, dude,
it's 300 yards. No, he's going to be a guy that, gets over 1,000 by the end of the year, probably 8 touchdowns or so. But this offense is looking to be less potent, somehow less pass heavy. I mean, that was the narrative coming into the year, was the Eagles are going to have to pass more because their schedule is going to be harder. And, no team ever has the luxury of running that much 2 years in a row. The Eagles' pass attempts per game are even lower now.
Saquon still had 22 carries and 2 touches, 2 receptions.
And this is happening against, what they've played the Cowboys and the Chiefs so far.
Yeah.
This is happening in both like theoretical game scripts. In the Cowboys, you would have expected them to kind of, beat them up, whatever, run the ball a lot.
Literally,
in the Chiefs, you would expect them to have to balance out the attack a little bit more to beat a good team like the Chiefs. What game script going forward is going to favor A.J. Brown? Is this Eagles team not going to be leading most games if they just kind of salted this game against the Chiefs away? Like, I'm sure there will be some shootout-y type games that they fall into. I mean, look, Cowboys-Giants was just a shootout. Nobody thought that was going to happen either. So it'll happen, but they're going to be fewer and further between. I think AJ is going to be a more frustrating player to own than people expected, which is why I'm not going any higher than a 5, because I still think he's a great player. He's going to have good games, but yeah, you're annoyed at this point. Drake London, 9.5 and 4.4. Odd, just because, I mean, he had 15 targets week 1. Turned it into 9.5 points, and then 4.4 this week on, I think, like 8-ish targets, maybe 7. I don't know what to make of Drake London because Penix is slinging the rock.
He only had
4 targets? He only had 4 targets? Wow.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts Sr., whoever that is, led the team in targets. And Bijan, but
we're not talking about
I'm not that worried about Drake London, just because I think, again, Michael Penix is just kind of starting to get his groove. They did not play very well, but fortunately for them, neither did the Vikings.
And this is the Vikings defense,
and I mean, Bijan is just fantastic, and Tyler Algier also put together a nice game as a backup. So I think they just kind of said, hey, this is how we're winning this game.
Yeah.
But we've seen Penix can slang it. He had a good week 1, and I think the time will come for Drake London again, because even with the presence of Pitts and Mooney and Bijan being very involved in the passing game, he's still the best. He's still by far their best pass catcher.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of time here. I'll go, just like Jefferson, I'll go 2.
I'm going to go with 1. I'm not worried about Drake London. I'm with you. Matchup based at this point, I think the Vikings that was a bad matchup for any offense, especially a rookie quarterback. That game was just kind of gross, other than
Disgusting.
the few times that the Falcons offense was able to break through.
The only touchdown was fucking Tyler Algier.
Yeah, Drake
now
London,
our RB2 in the Brand Pirate League.
Drake London is just a guy who I can envision his game log by the end of the year being 9.5, 4.4, and then 18, 20,
Absolutely.
15, 17, like just not worried at all. Ladd McConkey, 10.4 and 7.3.
You know,
I'll be honest, I'm worried.
Just because I think the reason why I liked him so much going into the year was that I thought Herbert was just going to pepper him.
Yeah.
And granted, we thought Herbert was going to be as good as he's been. He's honestly probably been better than I thought he was going to be. But part of that is because he's got a good connection with Quentin Johnston, and we should have seen Keenan Allen coming.
Keenan Allen's the bigger problem.
Like it is like our league mate Austin asked me, who we should start in another league last week, and one of the options was Keenan Allen over like some other guy, and I'm like, Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
I'm like, Justin Herbert has a connection with Keenan Allen, and it showed through 2 weeks that connection is shown. Again, you're starting Ladd McConkey, but is he going to return on that 2-3 turn? It's starting to look a little scarier, and especially if this I never want to believe that this Quentin Johnston thing will be sustainable, but
he's doing the Nick Westbrook-Akina thing.
Yeah,
which has a role.
But at the end of the day, it's like, even if you don't want to start Quentin Johnston because of it, it hurts Ladd McConkey.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what I mean, is it hurts Ladd McConkey. 5?
I'm going to go like 7
Wow,
on Ladd.
okay.
I think Ladd to me is becoming a safe floor flex guy.
Yeah.
But you drafted him much higher than that.
Oh, God, I thought he was going to be like Cooper Kupp this year, pretty much.
You drafted him to be a fringe top 12 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I just think Keenan Allen is dusting that. Like, Keenan Allen does so many of the same things that Ladd does.
We could look at Keenan Allen at the end of the year being one when we're talking about best values of the year.
Yeah.
As long as he stays healthy, knock on wood, we could be talking about him as one of the better values. Justin Herbert has been fantastic, which will help McConkey, like you said. It'll still give him a floor.
Yeah.
We talked about Chase Brown. I think I'll just go like a 4 here just because there's no Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for that, I'd feel fine about it. The fact that he's still dominating the touches. The Bengals have looked shaky. Still 2-0, where it's like they'll figure it out. But now with Browning, it's like they may not figure it out as much. But
again,
I'll
go 5 here.
Similar to Genty, dominating the touches. Much better offense than the Raiders. So I'm still feeling okay about it.
I'll go 5 for Chase Brown just because that efficiency is a problem, and that was the one thing I was worried about for him coming into the year. Granted, no competition has reared its head at all, so maybe it won't matter. But when you look at a guy who's already been inefficient and is now taking an offensive downgrade, I will put him at a 5. Kyren Williams, 13.4 points week 1, and then 9 points this past week. The bigger issue here being that Blake Corum got a decent chunk of the touches, and Sean McVay said that is more in line with what he would like to do going forward.
Which, I think that goes to show that if you own Kyren Williams, we know now you're picking up Blake Corum.
Yes,
Jarquez
definitely.
Rogers, is that
Jarquez Hunter.
Jarquez Hunter. I mixed them up with
Jaquiz
Jaquiz
Rogers?
Rogers. Yeah,
Shout out.
I love combining two players.
Shout out.
With bizarrely similar names. You at least know now that Blake Corum is the guy. Or if you want to screw the guy that has Kyren Williams, you go and you pick up Blake Corum. You got to worry about something of inefficiency. It's also just the fact that Puka just casually had a 45-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, that was real sick. That made me real happy. That's essentially what lost me the game.
Puka
that's 10 points on that play.
Run was
Fuck me.
That was an electric run by Puka.
Pain.
3. Not worried.
I'll go 4. Again, I'm not worried about like hostile takeover of the backfield. I am worried about Kyren Williams was a guy.
Term of you to use there.
I am worried about Kyren Williams. We talked about how volume was his thing. Like that was his buoy to being a guy, to being this elite fantasy asset. I think that is probably not going to be the case. I think I would put money on him not finishing the season as a top 12 back at this point.
Fair.
So I think you're looking at more of an RB2 here with Corum taking some of that work. So yeah, I'll put it at a 4 just because I don't think you're getting the Kyren that we maybe have seen in the past.
We've talked about a lot of bad today.
Talk about a lot of bad.
Talk about the good.
Mount Studmore, baby.
Amon-Ra St. Brown saw your Bust Anonymous
He wrote
video.
my name down.
He wrote your
so
fucking
hard.
name down. Again, similarly to like the Dolphins, obviously they were way better. It was great to see the Lions have one of those games.
Yeah.
Where just
Against
everybody...
Ben Johnson, which is so
Well,
funny.
that's the thing, where to see Amon-Ra pop off, see Jameson Williams have a good game, Jahmyr Gibbs does Jahmyr Gibbs things, and Jared Goff did what we know Jared Goff can do when he's at the top of his game. That was just really just refreshing to see it again. I don't own a lot of Lions, but still, just from the perspective, it's just like good. Like, they can do it. I think we're just looking at a Packers defense that might just be really fucking good.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen them now dominate two really good teams from last year.
The big picture is starting to come together.
I think that just may be the case. We'll see what the Lions do in the next couple weeks. You know, if they have a couple other dud games, we could say, like, okay, maybe it's just going to be inconsistent, or we could kind of say, hey, that may be an outlier. But for now, looks great.
Yeah, we'll see how the Lions look this Monday against the Ravens. Banger Monday Night Football game.
And also in that game, Roma Dunze looked great. And I think this is really promising for Roma Dunze. I think that the question was just going to be, can he break out with all of these targets they have?
Well, it helps that Colston Loveland is a 0 right now. Colston Loveland does not exist, which is, he's a guy that I am glad I didn't buy in on too hard, because there were people out there that were like, oh, new Sam Laporte, all this. And I'm like, there's just so many guys there.
Tyler Warren was the play for rookie tight ends.
Tyler Warren was the only one there in Indy. I mean, yeah, Pittman, Downs, whatever, but that's not the same as this. The Bears have a receiver they drafted top 10 last year. Like,
and DJ Moore, who they're paying a good deal of money.
Yeah, and so, I'm not going to pretend like I saw this coming with Odunze. I'm victory lapping, not drafting Loveland a little bit. That's about it. Garage is opening.
Where's she going?
I don't know. But yeah, Odunze now, you're looking at the last 2 weeks, 6 catches on 9 targets for 37 yards and a touchdown week 1. But what gets him on Studmore this week is the 7 catches for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. It is, the pecking order of the Bears is becoming clear. It is Rome Odunze, and then, I don't know, DJ Moore, I guess. Maybe Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet's playing a little too much. But yeah, Rome Odunze, the year 2 breakout is in full force. Malik Neighbors, Pat, 33.2 points. Of all the things I didn't see coming this week, and this is not because I thought the Cowboys D was some great unit. I started them in fantasy. Whatever.
Maybe that's why you lost, yeah.
I did not expect Russell Wilson, Pat, to throw for his career high in passing yards.
A guy who was a perennial MVP candidate. Those for his career high.
Tossing moon balls to not just Neighbors, but Wan'Dale Robinson. But Neighbors gets the nod here on Studmore with his 33.2.
Because you actually started him.
Yeah, because you were starting
Wan'Dale Robinson
Neighbors.
doesn't get on Studmore because it didn't matter what he did.
Wan'Dale with like 24 points of his own. But yeah, Neighbors showing out. I mean, God, he just was catching, it looked like punts for touchdowns. And then Jonathan Taylor.
Unk still got it.
Jonathan Taylor, 28.5 points.
He's younger than us, by the way.
Significantly.
He's 26, and I just said Unk still got it. That's bad, man.
Taylor, 28.5. I mean, Pat, what do we do with the Colts now? How real do we think the Colts are?
Well, we knew Jonathan Taylor was real no matter what.
But Jonathan Taylor's hitting a ceiling that even I, as a Jonathan Taylor optimist and owner in many other leagues, didn't see coming because, Pat, let me tell you this. I didn't expect the Colts to not have a punt through 2 games. So this is even higher than what we could have thought.
Shane Steichen knew his job was on the line, and he's like...
And he said, I'm turning Daniel Jones
I need
into
Vanilla Vic right now
Vic.
to help out here. Tyler Warren's looked great. Tough week. Well, Michael Pittman's still 4 for 40. Not awful. Again, Patrick Surtain was on him. But again, they're spreading the ball out, so it's just tough for pass catchers. You're starting Tyler Warren, no question.
Yeah.
But then you look at like Downs and Pittman are like, if you're desperate, bye weeks and injuries are going to start coming up. They're not guys that you're slotting in there. But we knew Jonathan Taylor was the kind of guy who, in some really explosive 68-yard run, the 43-yard touchdown catch, even with Daniel Jones vulturing him again for him to put up as huge of a day as he did. Jonathan Taylor was very overlooked, I think, in the preseason.
Yeah, I think
we worried too much about how bad this Colts team could potentially be.
I mean, when I was, again, in our main draft, sitting there, had just gotten Genty poached for me, which, so far, thank God, I was between Henry, CMC, and then kind of JT. And now, feeling like I should have gone JT, I guess, because Henry goosed me, which we're going to talk about right now, and Mount Bustmore.
Well, unfortunately...
didn't literally goose me.
Unfortunately, you're going to be talking about this by yourself.
That's fine with me. Got it.
Should I just bring my mic and just in the car and just
talk?
What's the range on
this
thing?
We can find out right now.
I'm gonna be riding. I'm just like, fucking bitch, move over.
Talk until the signal gives out.
You guys.
Thank you, Pat, for your contributions.
This might be a loud noise. I'm gonna keep the mic on for this, so
that's fine. This is ASMR getting out of the beanbag.
Oh, I've got such bad swamp ass. I didn't bring a change of underwear for work. I apologize to the fine folks at ESPN Stats and Analysis.
This is a hilarious.
I'm gonna change in your driveway, by the way.
That's fine with me. Just make sure you leave the mic somewhere and don't take it with you.
I'm just gonna put it on there. All right, folks. Yeah, some of us have to work in this podcast, actually.
He thinks this isn't a job. This fucking guy. Look, you believe this guy? He's not even on the camera, and he's talking shit.
I'm not even on the camera, and I'm talking shit. Yeah. Who's 2-0 in our league, and who's 0-2?
All right, you didn't need to play the violin sound again.
Goodbye, everybody. See you next week. I'll be here This is a one-off. I'll see you next week.
Say bye to Pat, everybody. Type 1 if you're sad Pat's leaving. Type 2 if you don't fucking care.
I'll just be in the chat while I'm driving.
That's fine. All right, folks, I will be finishing out this show solo. Yes, Mount Bustmore, we've got Derrick Henry leading the way, 2.3 points. I don't know. You kind of just sign up for this with Derrick Henry when you draft him. You know these bad games are going to come where he just can't really get out of the box. Granted, I didn't expect it to be this bad. You just got to put it out of your head, keep moving forward, because obviously you are still starting Derrick Henry. But this one sucked coming off of such an incredible game against the Bills week 1. Speaking of the Bills, Josh Allen also on Mount Bustmore, 11.82 points. Just wasn't needed in that game against the Jets. A lot of James Cook. This also is what made my loss in my home league hurt a lot because I was facing Josh Allen and I could not take advantage of him having such a mid-badass game. So yeah, 11.82 for Josh Allen. Certainly better days ahead for him in games where he actually has to, do things to win. Jalen Hurts, 11.54. This kind of just goes along with the Eagles being seemingly a lower-powered offense than what they were maybe expected to be. I didn't expect this level of dud performance because you expect, a tush-push here or there to kind of buoy this. But 11.54, just an unfortunate game for Jalen Hurts. Again, another guy that you are not sitting. And then Brian Thomas Jr., 6.9 points. Already talked about him. Made me big sad. Moving on to $1 million moves. Let me find the sound effect and be a good producer.
Make it move, make it move, make it $1 million move, make it move, make it move, make it $1 million move, make it move, make it move, make it $1 million move, make it.
And on $1 million moves, so quarterbacks, we've talked about a lot of these guys already. Many of them were formerly backups that are now no longer backups. Jake Browning, Michael Penix Jr., Daniel Jones, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and Mac Jones lead the way for quarterbacks available on your waiver wire. I think Michael Penix Jr. probably, maybe not priority number 1, but certainly priority 1A to 1B with Daniel Jones. Pat and I were talking about the Colts, talking about Jonathan Taylor. I think Daniel Jones is a guy that, yes, I'm going to start to buy in a little bit. I'm not just going to totally lazily compare them to the Saints of last year where, things completely fell apart after week 2. Because honestly, a lot of the reason the Saints fell apart after week 2 was because of injury. Injuries to the offensive line, injuries to various players. Do I think Daniel Jones is going to come back down to earth? Obviously. I think he's literally the QB 1 or 2 in fantasy right now. But still startable. You just have to keep in mind that, he had 6 carries for 2 yards and a touchdown this past week. If he doesn't get that vultured, sort of rushing touchdown, you're looking at 16 out of him, which isn't bad by any means, but just more of an earthly performance versus this 29 and then 22 sort of situation we've had the first 2 weeks. But definitely the guy you want if you are in need of a quarterback. As far as Penix is concerned, let me pull up what his fantasy point totals have been. So, rough game against the Vikings, obviously, 5.3 points this past week, but 24 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I would be starting him with confidence against the Panthers if you are down bad and needing a quarterback. If you've lost to Joe Burrow, if you've lost to Justin Fields, if you are potentially losing a Jaden Daniels for this week, I am not put off by the bad performance against the Vikings. Brian Flores is a nightmare for opposing quarterbacks, especially pseudo-rookie quarterbacks like Michael Penix Jr., only a couple starts last year. So those are the guys I want to call out there. Not really buying the Russell Wilson thing as a starter, so I would leave him on waivers. Going up against that Chiefs defense, going up against Steve Spagnuolo, I don't think you're going to get a repeat performance of what we just got against the Cowboys. Running backs. Bishop Tootin, baby. Toot, toot.
Duval.
Bashal Tutin's here, folks. He is actually in a complimentary role with Travis Etienne now. Had a receiving touchdown this past week. I think his role is only going to grow. Not a guy I'm comfortable putting in my starting lineup just yet, but I mean, it's almost crazy. I backed off of actually drafting Tutin in a lot of leagues because it almost felt like too obvious, too easy to do the whole Bucky Irving comparison with Liam Cohen, and it is an easy one to make, right? Easy comparison to make, but not one that actually maybe felt like it was going to come to fruition. It's coming to fruition. I mean, 14.2 fantasy points, 8 carries for 42 yards, 2 catches for 32 yards and a touchdown. I'm not a believer that Travis Etienne is going to maintain this level of production all year long. I think Tutin takes the backfield by the end of the year. I don't know how long that's going to take, but he should be on rosters. Woody Marks, 8.1% owned in ESPN leagues. Nick Chubb just hasn't looked very good. Look, he broke off that 25-yard touchdown at the end of the game that might make people forget about just how unproductive he looked up to that point. And people obviously want Nick Chubb to be good. I want Nick Chubb to be good. I love the guy, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I mean, he's old. He's coming off all these injuries. Woody Marks, I think, is a good speculative ad, especially with Dameon Pierce, mainly because Dameon Pierce was a healthy scratch. So any hope that he could have a bounce back, I think, is all but in the dust. Or is all but dust? In the dirt? Dust in the dirt. Whatever. Chris Rodriguez, Jeremy McNichols, speculative ads in the Washington backfield with Austin Eckler done for the year. Wide receivers, we've got a host of names here. Wan'Dale Robinson, Cedric Tillman, Kayshon Boutte, Alec Iomanner, Troy Franklin, Diami Brown, Torrey Horton, Hunter Renfrow. My favorite targets among these guys, I would put Alec Iomanner at number 1. He is just consistently having a role in this Titans offense. I think we talked about him last week. Clear number 2 target next to Calvin Ridley, if not kind of a co-wide receiver 1. So I would prioritize him as far as looking for long-term production at the position. Cedric Tillman, I would say after that, he is another guy that, hold on, let me pull up actually what Tillman did. I believe he had another touchdown this week, didn't he? It was like a weird tip drill touchdown. So 2 catches on 7 targets, 22 yards and a touchdown. He's just going to be very involved. Maybe not a guy that you're super confident starting any given week, and certainly probably not starting this week against the Green Bay Packers, but I like Tillman for a season-long sort of play. Kayshon Boutte is going to be up and down. I liked how he looked week 1. Week 2, he scored the touchdown, but only had the 1 target, so he's a weird one right now. Wan'Dale Robinson, I don't know what to make of Wan'Dale, because he was a full PPR, demon last year, because he had a bajillion targets, a good amount of catches, but no yards, so his yards per reception were way, way down. This year, his yards per reception are like doubled because he's actually getting targeted deep down the field. I think a lot of that is going to, is weighted by the deep shots he caught in the Cowboys game. So I don't necessarily expect it to continue, but 8.5 points in half PPR week 1, 24.2 in week 2. Speculative ad there to see if maybe, maybe he takes a little step forward with Russell Wilson leading the offense. Troy Franklin, I think, is your next best bet after that with how involved he was in the Broncos. I'm not fully convinced that it's going to stick yet, which is why I would put these other 3 guys above him for now, priority-wise. But this wide receiver 2 role for the Broncos has been basically vacant, just kind of waiting for somebody to take it, whether it was going to be Marvin Mims, Pat Bryant. Looks like right now it's Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin got some stuff designed for him week 2, so I think he is a good bet there if you miss out on any of these other guys. And then Diami Brown, Torrey Horton, Hunter Renfrow, kind of just watch list for now. I don't really see a world where you're going to feel great about starting those guys. Maybe Renfrow, if he turns out to be like the clear, number 2 over Xavier Legette, who got a bunch of targets and then did nothing with them again. Hunter Renfrow for about 40 yards and 2 touchdowns in week 2. Let me just confirm. And honestly, as a Tet McMillan owner, very, very sad about that. Hunter Renfrow's line, 7 catches, 48 yards, 2 touchdowns. So Unk still got it there as well. And then tight ends, we talked about Harold Fannin Jr. and Jawan Johnson last week. They are still here. Then we still got Jake Tonjes instead of the injured George Kittle. And Jatavian Sanders, speaking of the Panthers, got a lot of those looks from Bryce Young late in the game. So he could be a relatively viable play if you really need a tight end. So that will conclude our $1 Million Moves segment. We will now move on to our viewer questions for our live viewers. But for the audio listeners, folks, if you guys want to be a part of the viewer question segment, be sure to pop over to the YouTube live one of these days. Our show starts at 10 a.m. Eastern every Tuesday, youtube.com/benchwarmerbrand. And we will start doing viewer questions around 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Today we're a little bit early because Pat has abandoned me, so I didn't yap for quite as long. But yes, live viewer questions after every show. But for the audio listeners, thank you for tuning in. For Pat Gustafson, who is now absent, I'm Brandon Carney, and we will see you next time. And for those of you in the chat, of course, I will answer your questions. We've got a couple of donations first to get through. Let me make the screen bigger so I can actually read them. Will with $5, thank you, man, said, shout out to Chris Boswell, Bijan, and JSN for carrying me to 2-0. Hey, I am jealous of you, brother. I wish I was 2-0 anywhere. It is, look, the first 2 weeks are for learning. We're all still learning. We're all still getting a beat on what exactly the season looks like. Daniel Jones is still QB2. This simply cannot persist. So we are, we're going to move up from here. Alex with $2 said, Jake Browning's #1 college wide receiver was John Ross. Boy, I didn't know that, and I don't think I needed to know that. Thank you, Alex. Lucian with $5. It would be hilarious if the juicy KOC magic turned Carson Wentz back into the pre-injury near MVP form he had in the 2017-18 season in Philly. Yeah, we talked about that in the show. I don't think it's impossible that he gets a lot out of Carson Wentz. MVP tier, no, but actually productive and not a total embarrassment, I certainly think that's more than possible. Sean with $4.99. As a Panthers fan, should I ease off the panic button after the ending of the Cards game or stay pressed on it? I'd still be panicking a little bit. Look, the Panthers also, we didn't mention this in the show, lost Robert Hunt and Austin Corbett, two of their offensive linemen, to injured reserve. So an offensive line that was already kind of getting rocked and putting Bryce in a bad position is now taking these hits. Granted, he did get Ika Mekwonu back, at least so the left tackle position is shored up, but the rest of the O-line is now in shambles a little bit. So I would still be panicking. I don't think the fact that the Panthers made it close in garbage time against a semi-unserious Cardinals team that let them back into it is a reason to be like, okay, the Panthers are going to be okay. The only thing I wouldn't be panicking about is Ted McMillan because he looks really good. Man, this whole talking while I don't have anybody else to talk for me while I catch my breath thing sucks. Just putting that out there. Ethan with $5 said, drafted BTJ over Neighbors, but I still have Josh Allen, Bijan, CMC, Puka, Devontae, Tyler Warren. Should I be worried about BTJ? Brother. Bijan, CMC, Puka, and Josh Allen on your team. I could be your wide receiver too, and it would not matter. You are probably going 10-3 and making the playoffs and winning your league. It's fine. Let's move on. Ruby with $5 said, Kittle on IR, Andrews on the bench. Should I try to find another tight end, or do you think he'll start to get some play? I personally am moving off of Mark Andrews. He's getting all these snaps. He's been in now 2 games straight where the Ravens have scored 40 points and has done nothing. Got an end zone target this past week, which is both encouraging and not encouraging. Encouraging because he got the target, and not encouraging because he dropped the ever-living fuck out of it. So I would be looking to move on. I would be looking to roster a Jawan Johnson, a Harold Fannin over Mark Andrews, especially with the impending return of Isaiah Likely. I would even pick up Isaiah Likely if that's an option. But yeah, I am firmly hitting the panic button on Mark Andrews for sure. Lucian with $5 said, favorite rookie with 8 rushes, 42 rushing yards, 2 catches, 32 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. Folks, you know the man's name. It's Bishop Tootin', baby! Oh, God, that's probably so loud for you guys. I'm so sorry I just yelled like that. That is probably so painfully loud. Harry, with $5, said, with running backs Genty, Judkins, Merritt, and Harvey, and wide receivers Mooney, Shaheed, Golden, and Worthy, do I trade Josh Allen for help there or hope they pan out? Oof. I think you probably need some help. If you can get, a decent-ish quarterback back in that same deal where you're upgrading at receiver, I think receiver's your bigger issue right now because Matthew Golden is kind of unplayable at the moment. Rashid Shaheed is attached to the Saints. Darnell Mooney, I love the guy, but I need to see it a little bit more from him, in his return. You have a bunch of these guys that I think are like sleeper level, could work out type of guys, but you don't, when you build the entire plane out of those guys, it becomes less exciting and there's less confidence in that build. I do think you should go out and try to get a stud, either running back or receiver, in a deal involving Josh Allen, as long as you don't completely tank your quarterback spot in the process. Nathan Kelly with 10 said, what's the opinion on Baker Mayfield seemingly injured, only to be healed by the power of shit-talking to C.J. Gardner-Johnson? I think Baker played a great game apart from a couple crummy sacks that were taken. Yeah, I thought that play was really funny. He's like going down. He's like, oh, my ankle. And then he's like, oh, you want some, pal? I love Baker. I love watching him play football. I think he's going to continue being good for fantasy. He's had a bunch of potential interceptions dropped this year already, which is concerning, but he's still just going to be good. He's got such a good supporting cast around him. We love Baker around these parts. Alex with 5 said, Burrow hurt means Bengals wide receivers will earn their big money. Yaks will increase with everyone, Chase Brown included. Also, JB has rush upside and a 10-inch hog. That is good hog intel from our resident Bengals fan. Yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from. I don't think Yak will necessarily increase just because you have a quarterback that necessitates it, because obviously defenses kind of know that Jake Browning's not going to be totally dotting guys up 50 yards down the field. Like, they might be playing a little bit shorter, protecting the intermediate areas of the field a little bit more. But maybe. I mean, look, I could see it helping Chase Brown, mostly because Chase Brown's already been kind of underwhelming, so it can't really get any worse. We'll see how this plays out. But, yeah, Jake Browning is one of the better backups in the league. I don't want that to be lost in this discussion. Like, Jake Browning has held down the fort for the Bengals a few times. Yes, he's prone to some stinkers as well, because what backup quarterback isn't? You'd be starting somewhere if you were incapable of putting up a bad game. But it could be a lot worse. The S-Box with $4.99 said, full PPR, I had the last waiver pick and have no RB3 now that Eckler went down. Try to waiver Stevenson, Tootin, Rashad White, or Scatabo, or do I hold out? I would probably go get, I'm between Ramondre Stevenson or Cam Scatabo. I don't think, if you're really relying, like, if you're needing a depth back that you can, like, plug in, I think I'd go with Cam Scatabo. I would. I like Ramondre, but I'm still holding out hope that Travion Henderson can carve out a pretty big role in this backfield. I think Scatabo, by mid-season, has a larger workload than Stevenson, and he's already played himself into such a large workload that you could plug him in if need be. So I'd rather the guy that's theoretically trending up than a guy who I could see trending down in favor of a rookie. Like, I would rather take the rookie who's on his way up than the veteran who, like, he's looked really good. Ramondre's looked really good. I don't think there's really a wrong answer between these two guys, but, if I have to pick, that's the way I'm going. Omega with 199 said, D-Hop with almost 2 touchdowns. Unk still got it. Yeah, I know. I had somebody in the chat last week saying, like, oh, apologize for Hopkins yet. I'm still not apologizing for saying he's irrelevant for fantasy purposes. But, yeah, he is looking prone to catching these bomb touchdowns every once in a while. All right, I'll answer a couple of non-donation questions here in the chat. So if you guys have some, feel free to fire away for the next few minutes. Jan says, hi from Germany, 12-team dynasty. Should I get Cleveland running back Sampson from my taxi squad to the active roster? I have Chubb and Eckler as my main running backs. I would say probably. I think Dylan Sampson has carved out a pretty decent pass game role, even with, Judkins kind of immediately taking this early down role. There's also still the chance that Quinshon Judkins gets suspended. So, like, we can't rule that out either. Sampson with 3 catches for 13 yards and a touchdown this past week. I mean, he was going to have a dud if he didn't score that touchdown. So he's going to be a hard guy to, trust on a weekly basis. But if you just need a depth guy who's, like, going to be kind of involved, yeah, I would certainly elevate him. Darian said, who should I start, Juwan or Bowers? I'm still starting Bowers. Even a limited Bowers, I would still start over Juwan Johnson. Zitrine said, hey, chat, what's up, bro? I'm also chat. Yeah, we are streaming on Twitch now. I think, how many Twitch viewers do we have? Is it like 7? Oh, that was you, Omega, that said I should apologize for D-Hop. That's funny. Yeah, I haven't streamed on Twitch in forever. I just decided to like throw the podcast up here now. And oh, 1 viewer. Hell yeah, I got 1 viewer on Twitch. I love it. Let's see. Pop and Bob said JSN going over 100 yards both weeks, tons of targets, no touchdowns. What are your takes on that? $1 million move / trade for? I mean, bro, if somebody's low on JSN because he hasn't scored a touchdown, yes, trade for him. JSN is going to be one of the best receivers in fantasy, and I'm sad I wasn't more in on him coming into the year. Super Saiyan Johnny said, at least with Burrow getting hurt, me and my guys still have Justin Herbert, but who should we get off waivers for a backup, Drake May or Russell Wilson? I don't think you need a backup quarterback. If you have a guy like Justin Herbert, I don't think you need to roster a backup quarterback. If you choose to, I would roster Drake May. That would be my answer. Is it time to drop Caleb Johnson? Absolutely. He is. I don't think Caleb Johnson is going to do anything anytime soon with how his early season has gone. Alex says, what non-star who is underwhelmed in the first 2 weeks will rebound? Non-star who is underwhelmed in the first 2 weeks will rebound. So that's tough because I need to figure out which non-stars have underwhelmed. Because it's kind of like expected if you're a non-star that is underwhelmed. Let me. Oh, hey, Brett Rippon just signed to the Bengals 53-man roster. They're doing great. Let me go to the flex plays because I'll just look at running backs and receivers for this. I mean, Jordan Mason's an obvious one. I don't think he's a star, but his role just got bumped up so much by what has happened this past week with Aaron Jones going down with the hammy injury. I don't know, man. It's a tough question. It's a really tough question. Like all these rookie backs that I think are going to get better, I think that's an obvious one that I could go with. But maybe like Ricky Pearsall. He hasn't been incredible. I'll say Travis Hunter. I'll say Travis Hunter gets it together fucking eventually, and we'll go off that. It was like we got a couple more donations that popped in. AK with $5 said, I got Hurts, Chase, Malik, Etienne, Hall, Montgomery. Should I trade one of my wide receivers to get a better running back? Because my other one is Pacheco. Hurts, Chase and Malik neighbors. Jesus. Etienne, Hall, Montgomery. Should I trade one of my wide receivers for a better running back? My other one's Pacheco. I don't think your running backs are bad. I mean, I think you could field offers, sure, and see if you could trade like Malik for like a lower tier receiver along with a really good running back. Not a low tier, but like lower tier than Malik, which is most receivers. I think you could float that. I don't think you need to. Like, I think ETN right now is a very, very startable like RB1 given the receivers that you have. And then Breece Hall is not a bad RB2. I would say just stay diligent on the waiver wire and try to get some of these backs there versus, jumping ship on any of your receivers because that's like a league-winning receiver type of combination. I wouldn't go too crazy there. Omega with another $4.99 said nobody's talking about Lamar throwing for 4 touchdowns with barely any rushing, barely any help from Bateman or Andrews. I know the double Devontae Walker touchdowns were definitely an interesting part of this week. We'll do 2 more questions here. Let's see. Should I start Debo over T. Higgins? I think I would. Even if Mariota's the guy, Debo is getting so many of these like schemed short area screen, just creative looks. I would rather that than Jake Browning throwing to more of a static receiver like T. Higgins. Or not static might be underselling T. Higgins, but a guy that's not going to get quite as many schemed up creative looks like Debo Samuel is. Let's see. I'm the Cam Scatterby troll from last week. Since I was right, can you give me a job? I cannot give you a job. I will give you props about Cam Scatterby. Am I an idiot for dropping Jaden Higgins for Quentin Johnston in Dynasty? I don't know that I would have dropped Jaden Higgins in Dynasty. I don't know that Quentin Johnston should be unowned in Dynasty either, though. So I won't say you're an idiot. No, I would say this got to be an interesting bench roster size if either of those guys can be unowned. Because all the Dynasty leagues I'm in, it's like your bench is like 20 guys deep, and there is the best player available every single week is just Will Dissly. So, like, I don't really know what to say there. All right, folks, I'm going to call it there. Thank you guys for tuning in to this week's edition of Brand Coverage. Again, we'll be back here next week, every Tuesday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, live on the channel. I love you guys, and I will see you next time.